If you've ever thought, maybe I just need to work harder, this video might change your mind because hustle feels productive. But hustle without structure is what burns photographers out. And if you want a business that lasts more than a few years, workflow will matter more than grind. Let's talk about why. There's a version of photography culture that glorifies intensity. Shoot more, post more, market more, book more, edit faster, say yes more often, work harder, sleep less, push through. That narrative is everywhere. And in the early stages of building a photography business, hustle feels necessary. You're building momentum. You're trying to get traction. You're trying to prove something. But here's the problem. Hustle creates spikes. Workflow creates stability. Spikes look impressive. Stability builds longevity. Let's define hustle clearly. Hustle is effort without consistent structure. It's high energy, high output, high urgency. But urgency is not the same as sustainability. Sustainability asks a different question. Can I repeat this pace for years? If the answer is no, it's not sustainable. And if it's not sustainable, it will eventually collapse. Let's pause for a second. Think about your busiest week in the past 6 months. Did you feel energized or drained? Did you feel in control or reactive? Did you feel structured or scrambling? That difference determines whether growth is helping you or harming you. Now let's connect this to workflow. Workflow makes effort predictable. Predictable effort reduces stress. Reduced stress improves decision quality. Better decisions build better client experiences. Better client experiences build referrals. Referrals reduce marketing pressure. Notice the chain. Workflow reduces hustle pressure indirectly. Because stability compounds. Hustle does not compound. It exhausts. Let's reframe something important. Working hard is not the problem. Working chaotically is. You can work hard inside structure and feel stable. You can work moderately inside chaos and feel overwhelmed. Intensity is not the enemy. Instability is. Now let's talk about why hustle is seductive. Hustle gives quick validation. You book 3 sessions in a week. You post daily. You respond instantly. You edit overnight. You feel productive. But underneath that productivity, if there's no structure, backlog grows. Mental load grows. Emotional fatigue grows. And eventually, something gives. This is why so many photographers experience the same cycle. High energy month, crash month, high motivation, burnout, rebrand, repeat. That's not business growth. That's emotional volatility. Sustainable workflow interrupts that cycle. Now let's zoom in on something subtle. When you rely on hustle, your business depends on your mood. If you're energized, things move. If you're tired, things stall. That's fragile. When you rely on workflow, your business depends on structure. Structure works whether you're tired or motivated. That's resilient. Let's do a pause and reframe moment. If you've been feeling like you need to push harder lately, ask yourself, do I need more effort or do I need clearer structure? Because often what feels like a motivation problem is actually a sequencing problem. And sequencing problems are solvable. Let's talk about early stage photographers specifically. In the beginning, hustle feels necessary. You are building awareness. You are testing positioning. You are experimenting. That's normal. But at some point, hustle must convert into system. If it doesn't, you will plateau or burn out. There's a transition moment in business where you stop asking, how can I do more? And you start asking, how can I do this consistently? That transition is maturity. Now let's talk about control. Hustle gives the illusion of control. You feel like you're steering everything manually. Workflow creates actual control because it removes variability. When your pre-shoot stage is consistent, your shoot stage is predictable. When your post-shoot stage is defined, your editing doesn't spiral. When your pricing is fixed, your revenue feels steadier. That's control, not intensity. Intensity is temporary. Structure is durable. Now let's address something uncomfortable. Some photographers avoid workflow because it feels restrictive. They think, if I systemize too much, I'll lose creativity. But creativity thrives when cognitive load is low. When your brain isn't juggling logistics, it can focus on light, expression, timing. Hustle increases cognitive load. Workflow reduces it. Reduced cognitive load increases creative quality. That's the paradox. Now let's ask a deeper question. What kind of business do you actually want? One that looks impressive for 2 years? Or one that feels steady for 10? That question matters. Hustle can build visibility. Workflow builds endurance. In the next section, we're going to get practical. We're going to talk about what sustainable workflow actually looks like on a weekly basis. Not theory, reality. Because sustainability is not vague, it's structured. And if you build it correctly, your business will feel lighter, not heavier, as it grows. If this already resonates, comment below. Have you been leaning more on hustle or on workflow? Be honest, because awareness is step 1. Section 2 is where we build the sustainable model. Now we need to get specific, because sustainability can sound abstract. It can sound like, just take care of yourself, work smarter, don't burn out. That's not helpful. Sustainability in a photography business is structural. It's visible in your calendar, it's visible in your sequence, it's visible in how you allocate energy. So let's talk about what sustainable workflow actually looks like in real life. Not theory, reality. The first piece is separating shoot days from processing days. Hustle mode stacks everything: shoot, edit, market, answer emails, schedule, post, repeat, everything mixed. Sustainable workflow separates roles: shoot days, processing days, admin blocks, marketing blocks. Even if you're part-time, even if you have a day job, even if you only shoot twice a month. Separation reduces decision switching, and context switching is exhausting. If you shoot all morning and then try to edit immediately after, your brain is switching modes. Creative direction mode, technical refinement mode, administrative mode. That switching drains more energy than the tasks themselves. Clustered tasks reduce cognitive friction. Less friction means more consistency. The second piece is having defined output limits. Hustle says, take as many sessions as you can get. Sustainable workflow asks, how many sessions can I deliver well without backlog? That number is personal. But it exists. For some photographers, it's 2 sessions a week. For others, 4. For others, 1. The key is that the number accounts for editing time, communication time, recovery time, and life responsibilities. If you don't define output limits, growth will define them for you. And growth without limits becomes overload. Limits are not weakness. Limits are design. When you define capacity, you protect quality. Quality protects referrals. Referrals reduce marketing pressure. Reduced marketing pressure reduces hustle. Structure compounds. The third piece is letting your calendar reflect reality, not optimism. One of the biggest sustainability killers is optimistic scheduling. You think, I'll edit that in 2 hours, I'll catch up this weekend, I'll batch everything Sunday. Optimism is not workflow. Reality-based scheduling is, if editing consistently takes 4 hours, schedule 4. If culling takes 90 minutes, block 90. When your calendar reflects actual time, backlog reduces. When your calendar reflects fantasy time, backlog grows. Backlog increases stress. Stress increases hustle. Hustle increases instability. Sustainable photographers respect time honestly, not aspirationally. The fourth piece is protecting a weekly reset window. This is one of the most underrated sustainability practices. Every week needs a reset, not a marketing push, not a content sprint, a reset. A moment where you review active sessions, confirm editing status, check client timelines, and adjust the coming week intentionally. Without a weekly reset, small delays compound silently. By the time you notice them, they feel overwhelming. A weekly reset prevents emotional spikes. Even 30 to 60 minutes is enough, but it must be consistent. Consistency beats intensity. The fifth piece is improving on schedule, not on emotion. Hustle improves reactively. You see someone doing something new and you change your system immediately. Sustainable workflow improves on review, quarterly, biannually, annually. When you move improvement to scheduled windows, your daily energy stabilizes. You're not constantly upgrading. You're operating. Operating is underrated. Most business stress comes from over-adjustment, not under-effort. Now let's zoom out. If your weekly workflow includes clear shoot days, clear processing blocks, defined capacity, honest time estimates, a weekly reset, and scheduled improvement, you are not relying on hustle. You are relying on structure. And structure absorbs growth. Now let's address something important. Sustainable workflow does not mean slow growth. It means stable growth. Stable growth feels less dramatic, but it is far more powerful long-term. Sustainable businesses survive busy seasons, they survive slow seasons, they survive personal life changes, they survive market shifts. Hustle-based businesses collapse under pressure because they depend on energy spikes. Let's do a pause and reframe moment. If you've been feeling like your business requires constant pushing to function, that's not ambition. That's instability. Stable systems should not require daily rescue. If you feel like you are constantly rescuing your own workflow, that's a sign something needs structural reinforcement, not more effort. Reinforcement. Now here's something subtle. When you build sustainable workflow, something shifts internally. You stop feeling behind. Not because you're faster, because you're sequenced. Sequencing removes background anxiety, and background anxiety is what makes business feel heavy. In the final section, we're going to tie this whole month together. Workflow, decision fatigue, post-shoot stabilization, sacrifice, sustainability. And we're going to talk about what kind of photographer you become when you choose structure over hustle. Because this is identity level work now. Ready to close March strong? We've talked about hustle, we've talked about weekly structure, we've talked about limits and resets. Now I want to zoom out, because this isn't just about workflow. This is about identity, the kind of photographer you become when you stop glorifying intensity and start prioritizing sustainability. There are two long-term paths in this industry, the hustle path and the structure path. The hustle path feels exciting early on. You say yes to everything. You experiment constantly. You move fast. You post often. You chase trends. You ride momentum. It feels like growth. And sometimes it is. But the hustle path has a ceiling because it depends on emotional energy. And emotional energy fluctuates. Life changes. Health shifts. Family needs you. Your motivation dips. Your creative spark wanes. If your business depends on constant intensity, it becomes fragile. Fragile businesses feel stressful. Now let's talk about the structure path. The structure path is quieter, it doesn't look dramatic on Instagram, it doesn't produce weekly breakthroughs, but it produces consistency. Consistency builds trust. Trust builds referrals. Referrals build stability. And stability builds confidence. The photographer who chooses structure eventually becomes calmer, more decisive, less reactive, more selective, more sustainable. That transformation doesn't happen in 1 week. It happens in dozens of small decisions, choosing to define capacity, choosing to sequence workflow, choosing to batch tasks, choosing to schedule resets, choosing not to panic pivot. Each one is small, but together they compound. Now let's address something honest. Sustainable workflow is not flashy. It will not make you feel like you are constantly crushing it. It will make you feel steady. And steady is underrated. But steady photographers last. And longevity in this industry is rare. Most photographers don't leave because they lack talent. They leave because the structure underneath their talent never stabilized. They were good. They were capable. They were driven. But their workflow depended on adrenaline. Adrenaline fades. Structure remains. Let's pause and reframe something. If you've ever felt like maybe you just weren't cut out for this, ask yourself, were you failing or were you operating without structure? Because those are different problems, and one is fixable. Now let's connect this to something bigger. When you build sustainable workflow, something shifts beyond logistics. You start to respect your own pace. You stop comparing daily. You stop chasing every new tactic. You stop adjusting pricing emotionally. You stop reinventing branding monthly. You begin refining instead of reacting. Refinement is the mark of maturity. And maturity builds authority. Not loud authority. Calm authority, the kind that clients trust instinctively. Now, here's something important. Sustainability is not laziness. It is design. It is choosing a pace you can repeat for years. It is building a business that survives busy seasons without collapsing afterward. It is structuring your editing so it doesn't haunt you at night. It is protecting margin in your calendar. Margin is what keeps resentment out. When your schedule has zero margin, every inconvenience feels catastrophic. When your schedule has margin, problems feel manageable. Margin is a structural choice, not a personality trait. Now let's do a reflective beat. I want you to think back to when you first considered photography seriously. What did you imagine? Did you imagine constant exhaustion? Did you imagine chasing every trend? Did you imagine feeling behind every month? Probably not. You probably imagined creating meaningful work, serving clients well, building something steady, feeling proud of your growth. That vision is not incompatible with structure. It requires it. Now let's zoom out to the month as a whole. We started March talking about chaos. Why photography feels chaotic when you're new. We talked about workflow breakdowns, decision fatigue, post-shoot stabilization, automation boundaries. Then we talked about sacrifice. Now we're landing on sustainability. This is the arc. Chaos to structure, to stability, to sustainability. That's maturity. And maturity does not require hustle. It requires sequencing. Now here's the practical bridge. If this month has felt clarifying, if you've realized that the weight you've been carrying isn't a motivation issue but a sequencing issue, then your next step is not to push harder. It's to formalize your workflow. That's exactly why the Client Workflow Playbook exists. It walks you through pre-shoot structure, communication flow, session sequencing, post-shoot stabilization, and delivery systems. Not hype, not marketing tricks, workflow clarity. The link is in the description. And here's something important. You don't need to implement everything at once. Pick one phase, stabilize it, then move to the next. Sustainability grows incrementally, not explosively. Now let's close with something steady. If your business has felt heavy, it's not because you aren't working hard enough. It's usually because your systems aren't carrying enough weight yet. And that is solvable. Hustle feels powerful in the moment. Structure feels powerful over time. Choose the kind of power you want. If this series has been helpful, subscribe. This channel is not about flashy wins. It's about building photography businesses that last. Comment below. What's one part of your workflow that needs reinforcement right now? Not perfection. Reinforcement. I'll see you next month.